The Jamshed Road Serial Killer. Chapter 1. The City of Fear. Karachi, 2012. The City of Lights had turned into a city of fear. The bustling streets of Jamshed Road were now eerily silent after midnight. A mysterious killer was on the loose, striking without warning and leaving no clues behind. It all started with Salman Qureshi, a 42-year-old shopkeeper. One morning, his store remained shut longer than usual. A neighbor, suspicious of the silence, peeked through the glass window and screamed. Salman's body lay behind the counter, his throat slit with surgical precision. The cash register was untouched, and his phone was still in his pocket. This was no robbery. The police initially treated it as an isolated murder, until another body surfaced just days later. Hamid Ali, a taxi driver, went missing for 2 nights. His car was found abandoned near Guru Mandir, but there was no sign of him. Then an abandoned house in the area reeked of something foul. Inside, Hamid's lifeless body lay against the wall, his throat cut exactly like Salman's. A third body soon followed. Irfan Malik, a college student, was last seen near Jamshed Road, heading home from a friend's place. His body was found in an empty plot, killed in the exact same manner. Okay, so now Karachi had a serial killer. Inspector Rehan Abbas, a seasoned officer with 15 years of experience, took over the case. A tough, no-nonsense cop, he had solved many brutal cases. But this one was different. The killer left no fingerprints, no witnesses, no clear motive. Then a CCTV camera captured something. A shadowy figure limping slightly on his right leg, following Irfan Malik on the night of his murder. For the first time, they had a lead. But they had no idea how deep this darkness ran. Chapter 2. A killer's pattern. The investigation intensified. Inspector Rehan and his team analyzed the victims. Salman Qureshi, shopkeeper, murdered inside his store. Hamid Ali, taxi driver, found in an abandoned house. Irfan Malik, college student, killed in an empty plot. No connection, no common link. But then, forensic experts found a tiny piece of black thread near Hamid Ali's body. Upon closer inspection, it was from a pair of gloves, possibly worn by the killer. Rehan's instincts told him this wasn't random. The killer was organized, methodical, and careful. Then, a chilling discovery surfaced. A retired police constable, Ghulam Rasool, was found dead in his house, killed the same way. His throat was slit, and his body was positioned as if he had been sleeping when the attack happened. Something about this case felt personal. Had the victims wronged someone in the past? Was the killer enacting revenge? Then, a shocking breakthrough happened. A young boy, Rizwan, had witnessed something on the night of Irfan Malik's murder. I saw a man near the street. He was wearing black gloves and a dark cap. He was walking with a limp. He looked like a beggar at first, but when he saw me watching, he disappeared into the alley. A man with a limp. Inspector Rehan immediately ordered his team to search Jamshed Road for anyone matching this description. Then one night, a constable spotted a shadowy figure limping into an alleyway. The chase had begun. Chapter 3. The Shadow in the Alley. Constable Shafiq followed the mysterious figure, his heart pounding. He signaled for backup but kept his distance. The figure walked with a noticeable limp, disappearing into a rundown building. The police stormed in, but found nothing. Just an empty, abandoned room. But then, they noticed something disturbing. Old newspaper clippings were taped to the walls. Articles about the Jamshed Road murders. One headline stood out. Killer still at large, police clueless. The killer was watching. He was taunting them. Then, Rehan found something chilling. A list of names written in red ink. Some names were already crossed out, and at the bottom of the list was a name that made Rehan's blood run cold. Rehan Abbas. The killer was planning to kill him next. Chapter 4. A Dark Past. Rehan knew now, this wasn't just another case. This was personal. He dug deep into police records. And then, a shocking connection emerged. All the victims had one thing in common. They were all involved in a bribery scandal 15 years ago. In 1997, a young officer named Sikandar Hussain had exposed a corruption ring in the Karachi police force. He had testified against several officers, including Ghulam Rasool. A few months later, Sikandar mysteriously disappeared. His body was never found. The case was buried. Now, one by one, the men involved in that scandal were being murdered. Was Sikandar back? Had he survived and returned for revenge? Or was it someone connected to him? The answers lay in the past. Chapter 5. The Face of the Killer. Rehan tracked down Sikandar's wife, who now lived in poverty. What happened to Sikandar? Rehan asked. Tears welled in her eyes. They killed him, she whispered. He never came home. I waited for years, but I know who took him. She handed Rehan an old photograph. It was of a man with a slight limp, Sikandar's younger brother, Imran Hussain. He had been searching for revenge for 15 years. Rehan immediately ordered his team to find Imran, but the killer wasn't waiting anymore. That night, Rehan's house was broken into. A note was left on his table. It ends tonight. Chapter 6. The Final Confrontation. Rehan knew the killer would strike soon. He set a trap. Using himself as bait, he patrolled Jamshed Road alone late at night. And then, he saw him, a man in black gloves, limping toward him. Rehan reached for his gun, but the killer vanished into an alley. A deadly chase began through the dark streets of Karachi. Finally, Rehan cornered him near an abandoned warehouse. It's over, Imran. Imran laughed. They killed my brother. I gave them 15 years to confess. They never did. Tears streamed down his face. So I delivered justice myself. He lunged at Rehan with a knife, but the officer fired. A single shot. Imran collapsed to the ground, his breath fading. With his dying words, he whispered, I was never the only one. And then, he was gone. Epilogue. The truth never dies. The Jamshed Road serial murders had finally ended. But Rehan couldn't shake Imran's final words. I was never the only one. Somewhere in the city, in the shadows. Was there another killer waiting? The case was closed.